Hello, welcome. We're gonna talk about books today. I watched a few of these videos on YouTube, the tier ranking booktok books, and there were so many good opinions being said and things I didn't agree with but I respected, and I just thought it'd be really fun to tier rank a bunch of really viral or just popular books I've seen on booktok. And since I waste my life on TikTok, I'm in a bunch of like niche parts of booktok, you know, like that girl videos or nonfiction videos sometimes, or just like specific parts of booktok. Because I think there's the, overarching popular ones, which are just Colleen Hoover, but then there are like subcategories and those videos with millions of views where it's books I'd sell my soul to read again for the first time. So I've got a list of about 75 books, but yeah, I think this will be a lot of fun, so let's just get right into it. My categories are, the top is made this my personality, which basically means I read this book and then either wouldn't shut up about it, or I embodied one of the characters, or I just couldn't stop recommending it, thinking about it, it consumed my life. The second is passionately recommend. I'm not one to recommend books lightly. I hate doing it actually to anyone, like recommending books, because one, I might like a book for a very odd reason that other people would think is stupid, but how would I know that if I'm not in their brain and I don't know exactly what they would like when they read? And I think I have peculiar taste because a lot of books that are super popular I'm not into, or I don't know. We'll see as the video goes on what I mean by my taste. But if I passionately recommend a book, it's because I think it's so good, I liked it so much that I don't care about the odd chance of you not liking it. I really think you'll like it because of how much I loved it. Then we have I remember the plot. I read quite a lot. I've met like 75 books this year so far, and that is a lot of books to remember the plot for. So if I remember the plot, it means it was a good book. At least it was well written, or something in it was good enough that it stayed here. So that's that tier. Then we have Blushing. I like this one because I guess you could call it guilty pleasure, but it embodies more than that. Maybe there's a book where I know it's not great, but something about it just has a warm little spot in my heart. So there you go. Then I Don't Get It means I'm flabbergasted at why it's so popular, or I just didn't resonate with me the way it does with seemingly millions of people on booktok. And then Priority TBR, just so you know, when I don't get it, I might put books that I just haven't read and I know I won't, or I think I won't at least. So I Don't Get It is, as we go, you'll see, it's books I've read and books I just don't want to read. Starting off with the bell jar, this is from that booktok side of it girl or hot girl, smart girl books. Love those recommendations. Some of them go over my head. I'm not intellectually there. But this one, I thought it was a good story. I can't really stomach descriptive pain, if that makes sense. And without trying to spoil too much, there is quite a bit of the book about her getting treatment for mental health issues, and it's back in, I don't know, maybe the 50s, maybe later or earlier, but it's in the old days where it was still taboo, so the treatments were not how they are today. Like, it's not like therapy. I couldn't enjoy it to the level I wish I could. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it in I remember the plot, because I genuinely remember a lot of what happens. Maybe not all the characters, but I remember how the story progressed, and I thought it was really interesting, and I could see why it's such a popular book. All right, next we have Red Queen. So I'm gonna do only the book, because the other ones like Warstorm and all the rest in the quartet aren't really trending. It's Red Queen, right? So for that one, I'm gonna put Blushing, because I remember the plot twist made me gasp. I really enjoyed the love triangle. I thought the premise was really cool with the reds and the silvers. That being said, I did finish the quartet, whatever the series, and it was bad. Don't keep reading. If you read only Red Queen, it's fine. However, there is a huge cliffhanger with a plot twist. That's why I kept reading, and it wasn't worth it to keep reading. I should have just appreciated the plot twist and moved on. Next we have It Happened One Summer. I'll put this I remember the plot. Yeah, I remember the plot because I read this on a plane and I was reading it in between a bunch of other books on my flight because it was a really long flight. It didn't stick out as my favorite thing I had read in a while, but I remember the plot, you know, they were cute together, the little sea shanties, him going off to sea and her building that like bar with her sister. And I remember her little plot points from the city, and I thought it was cute, and I am really excited for the movie. And personally, I think Tessa Bailey's a hit or miss. Some of her books I really enjoy, some not so much, but this one I did. Then we have Hook, Line, and Sinker. I'm gonna say I don't get it, personally. I think I like their characters more, which is weird, but the story, I could not get into it. I read it all, and I wasn't blushing. I didn't enjoy this much. I didn't really love the plot line of it. Then we have The Book Thief. Oh my gosh. I think I'll put this in passionately recommend. I listened to this on audiobook while reading physically while I was at home. Like I don't know, see where I was in the audiobook and find the page and then vice versa. It broke my heart. I remember when I was listening to the big ending, which breaks everyone's heart, I was in my kitchen and I dropped a spoon. I didn't cry, but that's because I rarely cry from books. It was so good. It's an incredible book. I'm really happy I didn't read it for school because in middle and elementary school, I hated books I would have to read for class. Even though I read so much outside of class, it's just if I had to read the book, automatically I'm hating it. So I'm really glad I read this for my own pleasure. Beautiful book. I passionately recommend to every single person ever who wants to read. This one, I think it's my year of rest and relaxation. You can't see it, but it's priority TBR. Funny enough, I own 2 copies of it because I had forgotten that I bought a copy. Then my friend read it and recommended, and I was like, right, I want to read that, let me buy it. So now I just have 2. All right, next we have Atomic Habits, and this is a nonfiction and self-help, so I kind of got it from both of those sides of TikTok. I'm gonna put this in blushing. It's not a romance, but it's not quite at the level of I remember the plot because I probably remember 20% of what this guy tells you to implement. To be fair, the parts I do remember, I've implemented and I think they're helpful and they work. And it wasn't an uninteresting read. I really appreciated the data and kind of the proof he had behind what he was saying. Next we have Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I'm gonna put this in made this my personality. After I read this book, I was telling everyone I knew to read it, which passionately recommend. But more than that, I was reading so much about her story, her life, beyond what she talks about in the book. I was looking at Brock Turner's life, where he ended up. It really took over a few days of my life. I was so heartbroken over her story, and she writes so well. It was insane. I read a majority of the book waiting for my car's tires to be changed, and I was just in a dealership with these old men all waiting for their car, and I'm here about to sob over the book I'm reading, but it was so good. Please read trigger warnings. It's incredibly painful to read. All right, next on the list, continuing with sadness, is A Little Life. And I'm gonna put this in I remember the plot because I would never recommend this to someone. As much as I adored this book, it was another thing where I wouldn't call it enjoyable to read. I would call it impactful and important. It really got me in a low for a little bit after I read it, and there were pages I had to skip. I could not keep taking in that sadness and knowing that it probably happens in the world. Next up, we have My Killer Vacation. This priority TBR, I love Twilight, and like I said, Tessa Bailey hit or miss, so I think this has potential, and I own it. I've just bought it actually, so there you go. Girl in Pieces, I'm just gonna put it right there. I've not read it. I want to say I'm not attacking the book. I'm just saying I will not read it because I've heard it's super sad. And, you know, I heard a quote from a book once that really I loved. It was called The Lightness. That's the book. And the quote roughly was the girl wondering why her mom loved watching sad movies. How it's so weird that we pay to feel sad. And that kind of stuck with me. I still love a good sad book, but that just seems another level. Girl in Pieces, the little cut marks. Then we have If We Were Villains. I'm putting this on priority TBR. I loved a book very similar to that based on what I've heard about it, so it's also in this list. We have We Hunt the Flame. I think I'm gonna read this. I really do. I love fantasy, so I think it'll come. We have I Kissed Sarah Wheeler. I'm gonna say Blushing, because I skimmed the end. It was getting, the ending disappointed me. It was such a cool mystery for a lot of it, and then it just got revealed, and then the book kept going on for a bit, and I was like, what's the point? I don't know. I thought up to 50%, maybe 70% of the book was awesome. I loved it. And then the ending disappointed me, sadly. But it's not a happy ending. It just, I think I loved her other book, Casey, I forgot her last names, much more, which is also on this list. Then we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I'm going to put this in I Remember the Plot. But that's kind of a lie, because I only remember about 40%. Obviously, I remember how, you know, their little cafe works. I remember a lot of the storylines, actually, because they were really sad or just heartwarming as well. That's what I loved about this book, too. It's the mix of happy and sad. They're the happy moments in a sad story. So it wasn't just pain, pain, pain. It was really well balanced. I liked it, but again, I wouldn't passionately recommend, because it almost feels a bit inaccessible, some of the themes or messaging. It's either super obvious in one of the stories, or you're just like, what was the point of this one? Because it goes over my head. So it's in I Remember the Plot. Heartstopper, oh, I so made this my personality. I know a lot of people don't love the graphic novel. They love the show more. I liked both. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Such a good book. Oh, such a good series. Then we have The Song of Achilles. I'm gonna put this in Blushing. It was just too overhyped. Everyone said it made them so emotional and cry. There were some quotes in that book, beautiful. The writing style, beautiful. No, I'm just hating for no reason. I remember the plot really well. I'm just starting to think of like the time they spent in the mountain and then his mom coming, and I remember a lot. It was a good book. It was overhyped. That makes me so sad, because if I probably had picked it up not with the preconceived notions of what I'd seen on TikTok, I would probably passionately recommend. I don't even know what I'm saying. Let's move on. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. I'm gonna say I Remember the Plot. I kind of hate slow burn, which is really weird, but Mariana Zapata, she does it so well, in my opinion. Every book by her that I read on my Kindle. I never read on my Kindle, so I don't see the number of pages, because big book fear, real thing with me. But because it's on my Kindle, I can't see the number of pages fly through the books. I read both books I've read by her in one sitting, both, and they're massive, but it was a beach day. Anyway, really, really like Wall of Winnipeg and Me, just not as much as her other one. Then we have Crescent City. I'm gonna put Blushing, because sadly I'm a Sarah J. Maas stan. I say sadly because so much going on in those worlds. I don't even know what to like, what to remember. But when I'm reading her books, I'm having a great time, okay? And at the end of the day, sometimes that's all that matters. Having a good time when you're reading. Do I remember the plot? Hell no! There's so much going on all the time, especially in her latest series. The second one, House of something, that was fun. And the end, oh yeah. But it's so hard to keep up. So hard. They're great though. I really enjoy reading her books. Then we have The Spanish Love Deception. I'm gonna say Blushing. It wasn't a bad time. It just wasn't as good as everyone made it out to be. Then we have Akatar. I'm gonna put Made This My Personality. And listen, I know the controversy, but I just don't care, because I read that book without knowing anything about booktok. I fully just picked it up because I saw it in the bookstore. This was last year, before I was into booktok. I was just doing booktube, and I had only seen one YouTuber I like talk about it. So I picked it up without watching the video. I just saw it in her title. I read a synopsis and I thought that's cool. I devoured that book in one sitting. wow. The second and third one I also loved just because of Reese and Farah. How do I explain it? Just the first book really mesmerized me. It was my first adult fantasy as well, so really, really got me in that world. Okay, then we have People We Meet on Vacation. I do not get it. It's my only book by Emily Henry that I really don't like. I don't know why. I think the miscommunication was to such an extreme, I couldn't handle it. That's the best I can say, I guess. Okay, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Passionately recommend. That really took over my life for a while, reading the whole trilogy. I loved it so much. I recommended it to everyone I knew. But it wasn't, you know, a deep connection enough for me to make it my whole personality. I thought it was great. Den of Vipers, I own it. So I'm gonna put it in this one. It's not a priority at all. I think this is more or less the order of my priority, by the way. So this little rank is pretty accurate. A Touch of Darkness, I own it and I really want to read it. But I think I'm gonna do this because I want to read this in the summer. Then we have Verity. I'm gonna say I remember the plot. Is this the first coho? Yes, it is. So I have a bit of an issue with Colleen Hoover just because she's being so overhyped right now. She definitely reads like a fanfic or a Wattpad where it's just all the elements of tropes that people like, and it's engaging. Of course it is. I own a lot of her books and I've read them and I have a good time reading them, but people are overlooking so many issues with her writing, as every author has some issues, but they're romanticizing, you know, essay. Knowing that there are people out there who like Ryle, who actually say he deserves redemption, and people who just overlook the lack of diversity. Like, people will bring it up in a comment or something and they'll be like, but that's not the point of books. What? I don't know. That's my only thing. I think it's Colleen Hoover's stance are taking it a bit too far and overlooking serious issues. And I get it. I have guilty pleasures. I have books that the author is questionable or the book is questionable. But you take that into account and you're aware of it when you're reading. You don't ignore it and pretend like everything's okay, in my opinion. However, Verity I read really fast and I thought it was a cool premise. It confused me a lot, but I am team manuscript. Then we have Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I really want to read this, but it's a series and I'll have to read it all at once. That's the problem. This is a series too, so we gotta move it down. Then we have From Blood and Ash. I'm gonna say I don't get it because someone whose opinion I value in books said that it was really bad and repetitive and not written well and just very tropey. So for now, I have 140 books on my physical TBR. I'm not gonna prioritize this one. I'm not gonna buy it for now. Then we have Punk 57. Not for me. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? Reminders of Him. I also don't get it. Everyone loved this book so much. But when I finished it, I felt nothing. I didn't get it. I read it all in one sitting. Like I'm saying, Colleen Hoover is super easy to read. Maybe there's a reason for that, why all of her books are like that. Anyway, I love the movies. I think they're trashy. And I just saw the trailer for the next one, Happy Ever, something like that. It looks so bad, but you know I'm gonna be there opening night. But yeah, I have no interest in reading the book. I think I read like the first chapter and I thought, all right, beach read. Yes. I read this at a cottage too. It was just the best vibes to read it. So I think why I also enjoyed this one so much is because I went into it not expecting a lot since I'd read it after People We Meet on Vacation and I didn't like that book. So I've heard that psychology has proven this, that if you go into something with low expectations but then you actually enjoy it, you'll overall enjoy it more than something you think you might enjoy, if that makes sense. 1,000 Boy Kisses, don't come for me. I didn't cry. I did not get emotional. It was like forcing sadness down your throat and I just didn't get attached. It was very cute. I wasn't even blushing. There were just parts of it where I was like, oh, nice. But there are so many better things to read than just, oh, nice. Throne of Glass. I am currently reading the last book. I've enjoyed reading the series. I wouldn't passionately recommend like I would ACOTAR. It's not quite on the same level for me. I think it's because I'm an adult reading a YA fantasy. It's also so gory, which is surprising because it's for a younger audience than ACOTAR, which ACOTAR I find isn't gory at all or descriptive of the nasty stuff that comes with, you know, war or killing people. But Throne of Glass is quite descriptive. I got used to, I guess, the romance development of ACOTAR, and then everyone's raving about Aileen and Rowan. And then I read Throne of Glass, and I'm halfway through the last book, and I'm thinking, I like their relationship, but I didn't find there was good development of it. I kind of thought it went from 0 to 100, or minus 100 to 100, because they were hard enemies. I wish there was more of an emphasis on romance. I think it was a lot more, I guess, plot-driven, and there's so many different POVs we're following. All in all, I'm just a sucker for romance and fantasy, and I guess that's why I liked ACOTAR more. But not to say that it's not a good series as well, Throne of Glass. Next, we have Addicted to You. I'm gonna put this in I remember the plot. I really liked the first one. It felt super taboo to me reading it, but I still really enjoyed it. It was just too cheesy and unrealistic sometimes, you know? I can't relate to these people all living in mansions, going on boats, traveling around the world, like all of these rich people problems as well that they're having. Money played such a big part in the book, and that kind of ruined it a bit for me. Next we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I thought this was cute, but not my favorite. It was feel good. I remember some of the plot actually, but not enough of it to be on the level of the rest of those. Then we have The Summer I Turned Pretty. I remember really liking this when I read it. I read it last year or 2 years ago now. I read the whole trilogy in the span of like 2 days, and I thought it was cute, good summer vibes. I remembered the plot. Obviously the show is amazing. I really like it. Then we have Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I'm gonna put this in I remember the plot as well. I have so many up here, wow. Yeah, I thought it was really cute. I wasn't expecting the entire book, honestly. I went into it knowing absolutely nothing about it. I didn't even know it was LGBTQ+. I loved it. There were things in the book where it made me go, I didn't love that, or how it was resolved. And so that's why it's in I remember the plot. We have Where the Crawdads Sing. Fully became my personality when I read it. Now I want to say, I've read a bit about some of the controversy for the author. In no way do I support the author's personal life. I think this book that they've written is amazing. Personally, love it. And that is completely separate, just as people still listen to Chris Brown. It's separate, I hope. Then we have The Kiss Quotient. This was such a good book. Oh my gosh, that was probably the only thing that kind of matched up to The Hating Game for me, because I was feeling such a void after I read The Hating Game, and this was the only book that came close to matching it for me. And Luke Love with Love, oh, made that my entire personality. I literally started figure skating again after a decade because of this book. Every summer after, incredible. I recently read this and it was so good. Read it in one sitting. I felt very represented because the author is from Toronto, and I don't know, I feel like a lot of books are from the UK or the US, and I really appreciated a Canadian author being popular. All right, The Secret History. Whew. Quick explanation. I don't know if it was the book itself that I loved so much, but it was everything it was discussing. I fell in love with dark academia after reading this book. I thought the stories were so whack. I loved it. I took a Latin elective after reading this book because I became so interested in the world of dark academia, and that's why it's made this my personality, because it has to be a good book to make you that interested in something, right? This is one of those it girl books. The Slow Days, Fast Company, The World, The Flesh, and LA. I remember not much. I'm gonna put it in blushing. I remember reading it, I thought it was good. It was like a bunch of different stories with her and different men. A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Oh, I loved this book so much. The rest of the series went down the freaking toilet. The end was so bad of the third book, but the first one, oh, I loved it so much. I really loved it. It just, she didn't end up who she was supposed to end up with, so that made me very mad. Fully recommend the first one. That's the problem though, when you love the first book of a series and then the last one's awful. Ugh, sucks. Of course, Harry Potter is my personality to this day. Then we have Daisy Jones and the Six. I'm gonna say... I remember the plot. I really liked it. Why am I not putting in passionately recommend? I don't know why, but it's a feeling, okay? Book lovers. I'm gonna put this in... I remember I'm gonna put it in here because it was overhyped a bit, but it was still good. But if I were to passionately recommend these, this isn't on their level at all. Red, White, and Royal Blue. I really liked this book. A bit too cheesy at times, and you know how I was talking about the Addicted series, I felt it was kind of unattainable with the like money aspect. This book was on purpose like that, Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is one of the only books where it's like royalty and people in government with a lot of money and they take private jets all the time, where it was kind of not satire, but it worked well and there was a point to it, and it still didn't feel unrealistic because they were grounded people. Ugly Love, I don't remember anything. I definitely enjoyed reading it. I read it in one sitting for sure. That's the one with the pilot. It was good. Again, objectively, it's not a great work of literature. Parts I remember just sitting there and reading it, I had a good time. You know, it's an easy book to breeze through. Again, no diversity though whatsoever. It Ends With Us. I will have to not passionately recommend. I'm gonna put in I Remember the Plot. This was my first Colleen Hoover I ever read. No book ever made me feel that way. The feeling I got after I closed that last page, nothing has made me feel that specific way of kind of empty, but thinking it was a beautiful way to do it, that we follow her story. We're kind of going through the essay with her. That's at least how it felt, how it was written. But I don't think any of her books match up to It Ends With Us. That was the peak for me, and then every book I've read since has not lived up to that one, in my opinion. Then we have Six of Crows. I really think I should reread it, because based off what I'm hearing is I should have loved it. It has things I love in a fantasy. Shadow of Bone, I would put this on like the I wish I made an even worse category, but did not like that trilogy. Did not like the first, the second, or the third. But the first was probably the best of the bad. Cruel Prince. I'm gonna say, okay, the first book to me would be Blushing, but the trilogy would be I Remember the Plot. I actually really enjoyed all three together. I thought it got better as you go on, and that's so rare. Why is that so rare? I enjoyed the trilogy as a whole, and I remember things that happened in her being trapped in the ocean, and then how he used specific wording to make her not actually exiled, but she didn't figure it out. Oh, that frustrated me so much because I realized it, but she didn't, and I never realized things in books. But yeah, then we have Twisted Love. I really want to read this because a lot of people talk about it, but I'm going to put it there because I really want to read these more. The House in the Cerulean Sea. It's not talked about that much, but I loved it, so I put it here. And I'm going to say passionately recommend. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite tropes in a book, but it made me happy and it made me really have a great day the day that I read this book. Again, read it in one sitting by a pool, and I was flying through it. I thought the premise was awesome. The pacing was awesome. Every single character made my heart full, and I think people should read it. We Were Liars. Ugh. The Inheritance Games. I really want to read this. Oh, but this is also a series. I'm going to wait for the last one to come out, I think. So I'm going to put it there. I want to read them like one. And I know the last one's coming out soon. I heard there's a love triangle, and I will die if I start something without knowing the end. Then we have Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I'm gonna put this in, I remember, blushing. It was good. I do remember the plot, but not necessarily because I thought it was amazing. It's just, I recently read Every Summer After, which was kind of similar-ish. So that's why I really remember the plot of Love in Other Words, because so many people have compared them, and I was like, oh yeah, that's true. This is what happened in that one. It's a good book, but not to the level of these for me. November 9. Oh, this is the one where it's, I did not like this one actually, but I did read it all, but I didn't like it. Where they meet every year on November 9. And then there's the huge plot twist of why the thing happened in her house. I don't want to give things away if you haven't read it. I thought it was like too much. I think that's a big point in her books. A lot of the times it just feels like, what? This is so weird and unrealistic in a way. Like, even in It Ends With Us, my weirdest thing about that book was that this woman randomly offered to help her for free. I was like, I don't think that happens, honey. I'd be scared she was gonna kill me. Anyway, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I don't go in blushing. I listened to this on audiobook. I do remember most of it, but it made me mad. I enjoyed most of it, but some plot points made me really mad. And some of her complaining made me really mad. And she like wasted her life, so it made me mad. But I thought it was a good book, kind of. The Unhoneymooners. Oh, this was such a good book. Such a good book. Again, I read this to fill the void of The Hating Game, and it came really close. The Hating Game. My favorite cartoon cover romance. Such a fun age. This one's like kind of popular. Again, one of those it girl book talk. I thought it was trying so hard to be quirky and different and important and talk about a serious topic, and it was just badly written. The Atlas 6, I want to read this. I do want to read this. I think it's there on my priority. The Midnight Library, that was not it for me. They both die at the end. I'm not gonna read it. I'm sorry. Shatter Me, I'm gonna put blushing. I read the entire series. I wouldn't do it again, but it wasn't a waste of time. It was like, okay, but it was too much going on. I don't get why people love Warner that much. Like, yeah, he's a male, protagonist? I don't know. He's there, he's cool, but he's not the best love interest I've ever read. I don't know, sometimes I'm surprised when I see people literally fangirl over him so hard, but good for you. The Love Hypothesis, I didn't think it was great. I thought it was kind of cringe. The Great Gatsby, wow, so good. But I will say, I read it once a while ago. Thank God I've read more classics since then, because I found it at a used bookstore last month and I read it right on the spot again, and it was so good. I finished it in one sitting and I thought it was amazing. So many things I hadn't realized the first time I read it. So that's the only thing. I guess the language barrier made my first time reading it a few years ago like, well, I don't get the hype. But this time, wow, I loved it. And the last one, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was a really good book. I read it on my Kindle and then I bought the hardcover. I mean, not hardcover, just physical copy. It's a soft cover, because I needed to own it. It was so good. Oh, the plot twist and just reading about their lives. I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, this is my list. I spoke way too much about each book. What I'm surprised about is that not more books are at the bottom. Considering BookTok books generally can be kind of overhyped, we do still have quite a lot of good overhyped ones. So yeah, and these might all end up being amazing. Who knows? I'm sure The Lightning Thief will be. I've only heard amazing things about that series, and it's like, if it stood the test of time, it's for a reason. But I'm really excited to read these, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed my thoughts. These are just my opinions. Everyone can have different opinions of books. Maybe you hate everything I put on my top tier, and I am okay with that. And we should all be okay with different opinions of books, because at the end of the day, we read to look smart, and that's it. Hope you guys enjoy, and bye!